Hello, people. Welcome back to an episode of the USL show. It is great to be back. For people who cannot see what we see, which you can't, Phil was just jamming out, loading into this. So that was awesome. That was a ton of fun. We have a lot to get to today. And happy Veterans Day to everybody. And happy Veterans Day to Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. And was anybody else hearing double in there? Because that's what I felt crazy loading in here. I felt actually insane. But I'm glad that that's over. Because I was like, hold on, partner, I'm overstimulated. No, excited to be here. And yeah, thank you for the kind words.
By the way, just go ahead with explaining what's going on with the double broadcast. Yes, there are two broadcasts going on at once. If you are seeing the vertical one, that is supposed to go straight to YouTube Shorts. I have no idea how it works. If you don't like it, go to the other one. That's the normal horizontal. If you're someone who likes vertical things because you also want to see like Subway Surfer while you're listening to the USL show, this is the place for you. So just want to explain that one a little bit. So, someone we haven't seen in a little bit, Ryan, how are you? Oh, Ryan, you take a few weeks off and you're muted.
Good. Is Subway Surfer still like a popular game? Like I remember playing that in middle school, and like I've like not touched like a iPhone game since then.
I don't know. I just know one time I put it on behind me while I was teaching as a joke, and it's the most they ever paid attention, which it's fine. Alex, how are you?
I have teenagers, and yes, it has been nominally popular over the last few years still. And I used to play it when it first came out before they even had smartphones. So yeah, I'm doing great. Still recovering from staying up and watching one of the most epic semifinal matches on a Sunday night that I've seen in a while.
And speaking of our residential Subway Surfer, John, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. Very thrown off by the vertical faces to my side, but I'm living through it.
People who can't see what we see both screens at once. John, you have the ability to turn yours off because you're also a producer. Yeah, so Magic. Now Alex and Phil and Ryan just have to suffer with seeing two of them. I don't know, but it is great to be back. It is so wonderful to get ready to talk some Super League again. We're going to hit that first, and we're going to go over to League One, where we're going to preview the final. We have some USL League One news just in general to hit, and then we're going to go over to the championship. So thank you all so much for supporting us. I got to pull up the Patreon, but I want to read the Patreon list before our League One preview. Where we also have some League One news where Greenville is completely clearing house. Every single bit of the coaching staff is going to be gone. They're going to be starting completely fresh, which includes Coach Rick Wright, who has been with the club since they started and has now, as the club has said, gone into retirement. So some interesting stuff on that front.
Yeah, they have Greenville over the last year has brought in a new ownership group led by Wallace Cheeves and backed by this someone you may be familiar with named Rodonino. And when after bringing them in, they missed the playoffs this year for the first time ever, which is just crazy. And yeah, announced today that Rick Wright is retiring, and they didn't directly mention it, but the rest of the coaching staff is also departing. I've been hearing from a lot of players that a lot of them are also seem to be heading out, and there's going to be a big rebuild in advance of building this nice fancy stadium that should be opening in about May, June of 2026. And I heard there's going to be another positive announcement coming this weekend. We don't know what it's going to be about, but if you're looking for some good news in Greenville, you might be having it as soon as this weekend.
Ronaldinho, player manager.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you're right to kind of mention this moment with the stadium coming in. Every decision you see in the USL is reflecting the pro realm moment as well. Greenville really feels like they need to get this right. I think people liked what Rick Wright was doing. I know this was a tough season, but also one where the Triumph were stricken by quite a few injuries over the course of the year. You look at some of the younger guys they brought in and the trajectory of where this roster was going, where the system was going. I felt like there was still meat on the bone with everything there. Hoping that Rick Wright, if he stays retired, enjoys that. Hoping for the best for Mark Ward and the rest of that staff as they move on to bigger and better things. It's, bold call and really puts the onus on the powers that be with the Triumph there.
Yeah, they're all, from everything I've heard, they're very well liked among the staff and players there. So it is a huge blow, I'm sure, to everyone there.
Yeah.
Sets up Seb Velasquez's triumphant return, no pun intended, to El Paso Locomotive player manager.
So,
especially from Greenville this year, they had made a Jägermeister Cup semifinal, which isn't nothing to, I guess, turn your head away from. But obviously, cup finals or cup semifinals and cup runs can't overall overshadow missing the playoffs for the first time in club history.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm just going to throw out there for Mark Ward, I put this out on Twitter, and I did not put it over on Blue Sky, but I meant to. If you are Mark Briggs, bring Mark Ward back to Birmingham. He was a UAB assistant for a long time. Loved the city, had a blast while he was here, and he knows the city well. And if you've ever talked to Mark, he's a really good talent evaluator. Like, he'll just kind of just drop in names from people who are in college, and it's like, hey, keep an eye on this guy. And it's like, okay, we'll see. And then lo and behold, they're scoring goals. Someone like a Yana Bazzini, he was just like, just trust me. And this was before this is before preseason even started. Lo and behold, he goes down to Tormenta, absolutely starts tearing it up. So that is someone that if your club gets, you should be very excited. So there is that.
We've seen like some of the younger players he's brought in recently at Greenville that have absolutely thrived, like Ben Zakowski, Rodrigo Robles, Hayden
Connor
Anderson
Evans
last year, Connor Evans. Like, he's good. Anybody would be lucky to have him.
So any other final thoughts on that? All right. What about AV Alta? Alex, you kind of clocked this. They announced their players are leaving. The fans hated it, so they deleted the post, which clearly means that they're all going back, right? They changed their mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. AV, they're a first-year club, still, probably have some communication learning curves here. Announced on Instagram, gave each player their own post you could swipe through, but announced 9 departures, including all of their top scorers: Lalo Blanca, Sebastian Cruz, Alexis Soritos, and then also Walmer Martinez and Luca Mastrantonio, and then a few others who had a lot of injuries and are on the older end that weren't that surprising. But yeah, it caused a little bit of a backlash, and they deleted the post. Never had a accompanying news story or post anywhere else. But the context there is these are young, hot, talented players who are certainly heading up to championship. And I guess that's like kind of a lesson for a new fan base, that you get these young, talented players in USL League One, and they're not going to stay, and you shouldn't want them to stay either. You do this right. Like I think Tim Ranting Blue Penguin said this today. If you do it right, like it'll reflect back on your organization very well. Like they'll always have a high place for a high regard for you. But yeah, the first team to make a big roster announcement this year in League One.
Yeah, and we've not seen much of that on the championship front, because the league is like enforcing the idea that you're not supposed to announce your options until after your league's title game. So that's probably why Alta decided to delete this, because that's like violating the CBA. But no one cared last year. But here we are in 2025. In any event, it's tough if you're AV Alta to have the core of what Brian Kleiban was trying to build kind of go up to the championship, take those opportunities. It's also the nature of the beast. You are going to be a more attractive proposition for those next wave of stars. If you can say, hey, look, we took Cruz and Blancas and those sorts of guys from Next Pro and then move them up to somewhere better, that only helps you, even if it stings short term.
Yeah, and speaking of the CBA, it seems like so far, from what I'm hearing, I guess we'll probably find out more in the next few weeks, but it seems like Championship may be rating USL 1 a little bit more than usual this year, looking for value, young, talented players. So I'd expect to see a lot more of this over the next few weeks.
Speaking of CBA, if you want to read some pretty interesting CBA talk, Alex, you put out a pretty good post earlier today. If people want to go check that out, I'll try to find a link in the meantime, but everybody should go read that.
Yeah, get it signed.
So any final thoughts on the AV Alta? All right. Well, how about we hop over to Super League? We're back to Super League. We finally have gotten down to less than 50 matches to cover for the USL playoffs, which means we have a little bit of time to talk about the Super League. And I want to start off with Brooklyn versus DC Power, where Brooklyn gets a 1-0 win, and it comes right after halftime. Scarpelli gets the game winner from Samantha Kroger in the 49th minute, where I continue to be impressed with Brooklyn. They keep kind of just tinkering with what they are doing with the shape, what they're doing formation. This time they're kind of going with a 5-woman back line, this 5-3-2, and especially with Rebecca Cook and Catherine Zimmerman, it's been really impressive to see what they've been able to do on that front. Even though there weren't a bunch of goals here, there was defensive solidity, and they were lethal when they had to be.
Yeah, and I mean, on the flip side, first win since their season opener on August 23rd. It's been a long time coming. I do feel like we've been forgiving of Brooklyn for good reason, like with Tomas Stengarina coming in his first season, trying to figure out what this roster can be. And it's been a year where I think the Super League has just got better. Like the clubs that tried to run it back really haven't been all that successful in the early going. So Brooklyn feels like they've hit that stride. It's been the back five for 2 weeks in a row now. Sam Kroger, who was one of the better number 6s in the league last year, kind of wingback these days. And you mentioned the goal, Kaylor. It's post set piece, both of those wingbacks getting upfield and connecting in the box. And Brooklyn just felt organized throughout the game in that similar manner, taking advantage of dead balls, understanding how to limit DC in transition. Pretty positive all around for them, and more of a reflection of Brooklyn finding that rhythm than anything problematic for DC, for my money.
And just from comparison to how Brooklyn had gone through some troubles last season on the pitch, in their 7 home games that they've played this year, they've scored in all of them. They've only been shut out twice to open up the season right now. And this is at least looking like a much improved Brooklyn FC team versus what we saw from last season.
And there's something so great about someone named Leah Scarpelli scoring for Brooklyn. Give the ball to the Italians.
Flip side of this for DC, they are continuing to show defensive solidity. I understand that you concede a goal via set piece, right? But they continue to impress me. I understand it's a 1-0 loss, and they're not flying. I don't have the standings in front of me. I can pull them up really fast, but they're not flying in the league. But this is a much more competent side that we're seeing. In fact, you're seeing the defending champions down in last right now with only 8 points. Only 2 points in front of them are DC Power, but just from watching DC, this is just a much more competent team than we saw for about, I would say, 2 to 3/4 of the season last year.
Yeah, and I was very impressed with what they did a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember when the bye was, whenever they played Dallas Trinity. And Dallas has had their own problems defensively, but DC ripped them to shreds in transition. Jada Bedoya, what she's done since moving there from Carolina has been really impressive. Whether it's kind of this right winger getting out in transition, they've used her as a defensive wing back to close out games. She's everything for that club. And the combination with her and Gorley up top is sharp. I think they're going to bounce back from this Brooklyn loss. And that's a tough place to play against. Like, you think about the narrowness of the pitch. The sunlight was insane and limiting visibility throughout that second half, especially for those of us trying to watch at home. So yeah, good stuff for DC overall in terms of building this team up from a pretty poor inaugural season.
That is one thing you mentioned, just being blinded. I don't know how many people played the old Battlefield games, but if you're someone who played Battlefield 3 and you ever saw one of the flashlights on one of those bad boys, that's about what it was like watching this match. And it just every time that the camera panned to the left, there's sun. It was pretty rough.
Old school New Mexico United vibes before they switch the cameras around. I would say in general, like, I mean, you mentioned DC, but I think like the Super League in general, where it's at right now, it's aside from the fact that Lexington and Fort Lauderdale are very good, it's hard to draw like other conclusions given the fact that like we've got, Spokane's in 4th, but they've played 3 more games than most of the league. Yeah. And it's like, like you said, Tampa, Dallas, DC propping up the league right now, but they also have games in hand on the teams above them, and they could easily be like in the conversation. So, goal difference spreads are weird too. Tampa Bay has, the same goal difference as Brooklyn, their bottom, and DC has the same goal difference as Sporting Jackson 3rd. So it's like there's a whole lot more of sifting, I think, that has to occur in the Super League season before we see who's the real deal and who are the pretenders that fade away.
I mean, the 2 teams that are currently unbeaten in their last 5 games currently bookend the league, which is just incredibly interesting form.
The thing about goal difference is basically like, have you been blown out by Lexington or not is kind of the differentiator there. Yeah.
And it'll happen to everybody. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because they're just really good.
I look forward to this Lexington team losing in the first round of the playoffs, because that's apparently what happens when you're a generationally good team. Sorry to the Kentucky. Lexington fans. Yeah, out of Kentucky specifically.
Any final thoughts on this match? Okay, well, let's hop over to Carolina Ascent, where they fall 1-0 to Fort Lauderdale United. And stop me for this one, but Jasmine Hamid scores, and that is the game winner. And it was a pretty interesting one for me to watch, because Carolina, we keep talking about this on again, off again. There was a couple of moments a few weeks ago where we were like, okay, they got Mackenzie George really doing her thing. They took her out wide, put her in the middle, and said, go wherever you want. And now it's just kind of not working anymore. And another part of this is Fort Lauderdale, for what they did last year, which felt a little bit like run and gun, that we are just going to beat you to death with the counterattack, and we're just going to strike like lightning. And if you score, okay, we'll score twice, and that's cool. They've been able to shore up this back line a little bit more. And I've been really impressed with what I've seen out of Fort Lauderdale. And they kept someone like Mackenzie George at bay.
Yeah, and the press was up and down, but the aggressiveness of it was something we really didn't see last year. They kind of used Kiera Locklear, the striker, in a deeper position and using her to mark Taylor Porter in the Carolina midfield. And then it was Hamid and Gordon just flying up against the center backs, trying to force them into turnovers. There were a lot of times where Carolina just chipped over it and broke through. And that's where what you mentioned, Kayla, like the back line for Fort Lauderdale really didn't make a mistake over the course of the 90 minutes. And you think about the goal also, it's Hamid, it's Locklear, the interchange, having that flexibility that was really the hallmark last season while you're growing as a defensive unit. And I know this is a team that reached the title game, but it feels like a more balanced version of United.
And when you lose your goal scoring threat, which is I mean, you end up losing an Addie McCain. And Locklear is someone who came in late last year. I don't mean like literally signed late, but she kind of showed up to the scene late. She gets the game winner that sends them to the title game. And it's one of these situations that I wasn't sure how she was going to be able to replace. But you mentioned she drops in deep. She's kind of she's making the plays happen around her, not too different to what's normally her counterpoint or what would be her counterpart on the other side who came in off the bench. Mia Corbin is not someone too indifferent, where traditionally the number 9, she still wears the number 9, but definitely plays like that false 9, that number 10, who's going to link up play and then just kind of act as the ball progressor and passer. And I think Locklear is someone that you can absolutely compare to a Mia Corbin.
Well, I'm loving what they're getting from Stella Nimake in that kind of number 10, kind of number 8 spot. I think she's only 20 years old on loan from Gotham and the NWSL. She is so good with the ball at her feet, really progressive on the dribble. It kind of fills the gap that happened when Addie McCain left for Lexington, right? Locklear can do some of the goal scoring things. Niamake is that creator between the lines. Recreating her in the aggregate is a little bit rote to say, but that's kind of what they've been able to do.
This is Carolina Ascent this year. We're back. It's over. Just don't know what to make of it. Like, what is it? What is Carolina Ascent? We don't know. They were such a sure thing last year, and now it's just it is up and down. Like, they unbeaten in 5, and then after like a pretty tough start, now they lose. I don't know.
And that feels like a lot of this league so far. I mean, I thought Dallas Trinity was the best team ever, and then they've completely fallen apart. Tampa Bay Sun, as we mentioned, just has not gotten it going. They had one match where they said, what if we tried that pressing thing? What if we did the thing with that words last year? They won a game. They said, great, we'll never do that again. And like they've just been going through these cycles where every team just gets really hot and then really not, unless you're Lexington. They're fine. Is it, for all the Lexington fans listening to this, is it nice to hear us talk positively about you? This is a new phenomenon. I don't know.
We got enough guff from them when we were so negative for the better part of 2 years. They've really earned it.
This is true. They have earned this. Any final thoughts on this? Quick Super League thing. NWSL is officially going to Atlanta, which if you thought that Roswell, which is the Atlanta bid for the USL, was going to happen, you are really fooled into not thinking that the USL just loves to announce things, because Super League was a part of that announcement. Arthur Blank is now putting an end to that, and NWSL is going to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, Roswell was one of those situations where it's like the USL shook hands with a city, but there wasn't an owner, and we're just like, okay, we're going to plant a stadium here. I don't think this was ever very real, and this is kind of the natural conclusion to that whole arc.
Yep. Well, before we go over to our preview for the playoffs and for League One. Let's go ahead and thank our wonderful patrons. We got Stephen Howard, John's Landlord, Don Garber, David Horn, Josh, Dylan Reed, William Land, Sandy Lester, Ryan Smelter, Matt Capiel, Andrew Towsley, All the Hedgehog, Kunal Patel, MOS, NF Red 30, Tim Knox, Rion Lacar, Jeremy Churchman, Alberto Aguilar, Noah Telford, Michael Fuchs, John Fuller, Christopher Cohn, Frank Anthony, and John Hunt. Thank you so much for supporting us and everything that we do. We have Alex, who's going to be out at the League One final this weekend. We are still waiting to find out where the championship is going to be, but at least there will be some sort of representation of us there. And the only reason we can even think about doing stuff like that is because of your help and your support. So thank you so much.
Chuck Schumer, I am calling on you now. Keep the fight up. Keep fighting. And the best way to do that, subscribe to the Patreon.
He's looking out for us by getting the airlines back in business.
Yeah. Championship final, can't disrupt. Got a cave.
I'm driving in Knoxville, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, you're closer to Knoxville than I thought you were.
Yeah, it's not a it's oh I mean I say it's down Interstate 81, so it's a pretty bad drive, but it's doable.
Well, a team that I hope is not driving over to Knoxville is the Spokane Velocity. They are going to be hopefully taking a flight. If not, that's insane. But they are taking on One Knox, who wins the Players Shield. They might be going for the double. And this is also a team that they are taking on with Spokane, who got hot at the right time last year. And they find themselves into back-to-back championships now, or finals. So we are looking at a One Knox team who they've never lost at home. But Spokane just seems to have that little bit about them. And they went out and spent. Oh, boy, did they spend in this offseason. I think for all of us here, if you said the season was going to end with One Knox versus Spokane in the final, how many of you would really be shocked in the slightest? This was absolutely up there for the idea of what this could be. And it's going to be really interesting to see how these two teams face off against each other.
Yeah, the Players Shield winner, Knoxville, haven't lost at home, hosting. Should be they're saying it's going to be a sellout crowd of 7,500 people, which I think would be the biggest League One crowd in history. Yeah, Knoxville's been playing a pretty cohesive brand of soccer in the last half of the season and through the playoffs. They beat Charlotte 2-1, beat Naples 1-0. Probably won't see any major adjustments for this match. They've got the goalkeeper of the year in Sean Lewis, defender of the year Jordan Skelton. Congratulations on those awards today. And yeah, meanwhile you have Velocity. They're for the second time in a row. They made a run last year and lost to Omaha. They're back. Got a taste. Coming off of back-to-back matches that required extra time and penalties. We saw on Sunday night, if you stayed up and watched that thriller, which a lot of you did because we're all sickos here, we saw Nil Vigneault come off the bench and score a goal at the death to send that one to penalties. Portland, I think, really thought they were gonna get that done, but Spokane's bench goes deep. Their coach plays chess. So I think in this one, there are two players to keep an eye on Knoxville. Nico Rosamilia has come in for Mark Doyle and has done really well there on that left side, plays really well with Stuart Ritchie. They're making a lot of moves down that left side. Spokane, there's a Spokane on paper, I think should be the Players Shield, but kind of struggled there to finish it out. So I think in this one, if Knoxville scores in regular time and maintains it, they're going to win. If it goes into extra time, Spokane really has a shot at taking it. And if it goes into penalty kicks, you got two of the best goaltenders in the league by far, going head to head. We might see this one go into like 11 or 12 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, give that to me, please. And Marinaccio, who at one point had the USL League One record for penalty saves in a season, which has since been broken, I do believe. And Lewis, who is the back-to-back goalkeeper of the year. I think you're right to point them out. And the one thing that you mentioned, Alex, is on paper, you look at this Spokane team, and then you say, yes, they've played 120 minutes plus penalties. How tired are they going to be? Plus, they had to travel from Spokane down to Knoxville. That flight's the real deal. But also, we don't have them listed here. Check out who's going to be on the bench for them. It's not like they're just going to be running out people who just have no business being around this league. I mean, you're talking about a Nil Vinyals. You are talking about a Heel, a Denton, a Hernandez. These Chrysler. These are great players that are starting for almost every other team in this league, except for one Knox. It's going to be fascinating to see how they handle that.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Lee Wiedemann's going to make any adjustments on this one, given the strong defense. Like, do you bring in Nil Vinyals alongside of Luis Hill, like he's done several times this season, to try to like get it finished in regular time, or do you save this stuff and assume it's going to go into extra time and save a lot of these guys till the end to see what they can do?
Yeah, and on the Vinyals point, I mean, he was such a difference maker in the Portland game. The thing that stood out for me is clearly Lee Wiedemann sees him as a winger and attacking mid, where Richmond was unafraid to use him in those deeper midfield positions as that play starter, somebody who can beat a press because he is technical with the ball. I think that would play quite well against this Knoxville team. And it feels like the kind of change that is fit for the moment of a final where you really need to be throwing whatever you have out there. There definitely is value to saying, okay, great, if this thing's locked up in the 80th minute, we're getting Vinyals, we're getting Pelaez, and we're going for it. I don't know if that conservatism is going to pay off. And that's not to say that Bryce Meredith hasn't done a good job. I think given that he wasn't expected to be the starter in that position, he's been pretty serviceable. But it's a different challenge when you're on the road against a team as organized as one Knox's men.
Yeah, and what worked against Tormenta and worked against Portland is probably not going to work against this Knoxville squad.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned what they've been able to do up that left side with Stuart Ritchie and Rosamilia. That's the exact combination that gave Spokane trouble in that second half against Portland. It was Ollie Wright, Nathan Messer doing their thing and having their way. How does Spokane adjust against a team that can break them down similarly? I think that's a big question for Wiedemann heading into this.
Yeah.
Well, I do think the first goal in this match is going to be absolutely crucial. Just the fact that, like, the last time that Knoxville at home conceded the first goal was when Central Valley Fuego did it last season, and the fact that this year Knoxville in league games have only trailed at home for the length of one SpongeBob episode when they were down 2-1 against Charlotte. It's been 511 days since it will be as of Friday 511 days since Knoxville have last lost a match at home. Like, I think you're absolutely spot on, Alex, that if they get that opening goal, they're going to put together another 1-0, which they already have at home this year, which they already have 9 of.
Yeah.
Can we all agree that if this goes to penalties and they lose, that's going to end the streak? We cannot do this. Technically, we cannot keep doing this as a society.
It would already be an injustice after this season if they don't win. You got to give them something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at at the center back pairings in these of these two though, like Jordan Skelton and Seaver Hogley and David Garcia and Cameron Miller, like this. These are good pairings here. Jordan Skelton won the Defender of the Year, first center back in a while. I think that's the league has given that to. He's a defender's defender. I mean, and David Garcia, I have to assume was the runner up in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And relative to Garcia and Miller, I am a bit worried about the Knoxville attack. It's been good, not great over the course of the postseason. You look at numbers like expected goals, they've kind of underperformed what they did during the lion's share of 2025. I know it's a different state of play when you get to November, but given how organized Spokane can be and how they've been able to shut down really everybody but Portland for about half an hour stints at a time, I think it's maybe the storyline of the game. Can Knoxville break them down and get past Mauricio?
I think the challenge too is Spokane the team of destiny, or have they run out of fairy dust, right? Like, and it's a very, very fine line between they have found a way the last two games and they are, a fingernail away from not being here. Like there's a very real scenario in which Portland is playing in this match. Like they were so close to going out twice, once in extra time and once in the penalty shootout. So I do think it's just that age old question of like, is it just because it's their year, or is it because have they effectively run out of magic here?
Well, it's not like when Knox didn't have that on their own side, where they are one called handball away from being down 1-0 and going into extra time, assuming they score, right? I understand, ifs, ands, or buts, all that kind of stuff. But it was a pretty egregious handball that was missed for Naples. And who knows what happens if Naples gets a 1-0 lead and they decide to shut up shop, which we know that they can do. They end up, when Knox goes up the other side of the pitch, Tequila gets the game winner. But both teams have a little bit rode their luck going into this match, where both of them probably feel a little lucky to be here in that sense. So with all that said, I do want to throw out one extra bit where I want to just kind of ask the question. And this is maybe me being a slave to the moment, right? Maybe I'm just kind of stuck here and I'm just getting caught up. But I'm looking at these number 10s, and I'm looking at Luis Hill and Tequila. And I think that those are the two players to watch in this match. They are both just so electric on the ball, where it felt like blasphemy coming into the season to say, would you rather have anybody over Luis Hill going into this match or going into the season? Tequila's making a case for it as one of the best players that this league has to offer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He definitely stepped up this season, and bringing in Babacar Dean has really set their scoring to a level that they literally have not seen in their existence as a professional club. They were last in goals the last two seasons. I think a lot of that, like, we can't forget that. And then coming in this season and keeping that defense and figuring out how to score goals, that's going to win them their championship.
On the heel side of things, really for a lot of this year, it's been, to an extent, what we consider to be classic Luis Hill, which is operating in the final third, bringing teammates into play, scoring those goals on the edge of the box. But he's really shown in transition, and that too is underrated from Spokane. They can be a possession team. They like to build short from the back, but they're very sharp on the break because Hill can pick up the ball, bring Siobhan John Brown in that speed up the sideline. He's so good about hitting early passes when he sees a run. That's a skill set that few players have across the USL writ large, like inclusive of the championship. And it's made him, like you say, Kayla, probably the most important player for Spokane's offense.
So if you guys are ready, let's give a finals prediction. Does anybody have any final thoughts before they give their predictions?
I don't want to make this prediction.
I somehow didn't think about this before we got on the podcast. Yeah.
Well, John, you are at the top of the list, so you are going to be the one to start us off unless you want to punt it to the next person. Double it and pass it on, if you will.
I just feel like Spokane has this. I don't know why I have the feeling. I'll say 2-1 Spokane. How about?
Okay. Alex, choose your words carefully. You're going to be in Knoxville this Sunday. So are you going to have friends when you show up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the home pitch advantage. I think it's gonna continue on. I'm gonna say regular in 90 minutes, 2-1 Knoxville. So flip it from John's prediction.
Ryan?
I do think if Spokane is going to win this game, they need to score multiple goals to do so. But yeah, I mean, this home streak has just been something for Knoxville so far. And on top of that, we've yet to see a USL 1 final be won by the visiting team. So Knoxville 1-0.
Phil?
Yeah, I think Knoxville get it done. I think the magic runs out for Spokane on this long trip cross country, and Knoxville keeps the home streak up. I'll go 2-0. Why not?
I do think this one goes all the way down to penalties. I'm a little bit worried that the first half of the game is going to be both teams just kind of shutting up shop and filling each other out. And I kind of feel like there's a chance that the second half may be a little bit of the same. I do think that we're going to end up in penalties, probably a 1-1 score line. I think both teams do end up scoring. From there, who do you back more? The 2-time goalkeeper of the year or the person who has saved the most penalties in one season? I might be looking at the person who saved the most penalties in one season. So I'm going to hedge my bet Spokane in penalties.
If it goes to penalties, I would slightly lean Spokane.
Any final thoughts on this before we go over to the championship?
I think if we get another penalty win for Spokane, like put Mauricio in the Hall of Fame right now. 3 straight penalty shootout wins in a row would be an achievement.
Yeah, if he makes at least one save, yeah.
Ready to move on? Cool. All right, let's start off in the East, where we have Pittsburgh taking on Rhode Island. And we've seen this matchup 3 times this year. Rhode Island only getting one of those wins, but it came in a Jägermeister Cup where it really mattered. This was before Pittsburgh was eliminated, so they were both going for it. But since then, Pittsburgh has changed coaches, and they are still as defensively solid as ever, but they do refuse to just score. Meanwhile, Rhode Island has discovered that Albert Dikwa, hey, maybe he's still good at this goal-scoring thing. Bring him in as a super sub. We'll see how it works. This is going to be a defensive battle. Are we going to see 2 teams kind of shut up shop for 120 minutes and ride it all the way to PKs where you trust Dick and Vegas to do this in PKs? Or do we weirdly see both teams go at each other because they know the other defense is so strong? How are we kind of feeling here?
I think the weird thing with both of these clubs is that they aren't parking the bus, even if the results have been pretty light on goals. Like Pittsburgh lives in the final third. They counter press so aggressively. It's easy to think, oh, it's the club Bob Lilly built. It's all defense. They're really slick with the ball these days. And that's probably a credit to Rob Vincent and his ability to just get a little bit of a different flavor out of the midfield in particular. And Rhode Island, once Dikwa came onto the pitch, you really saw the vision. And it is what it is with the final goal that he scores, passing the ball into the net from 50 yards out. But the process up to that point, the ability to get into the final third, stop North Carolina from doing anything they wanted to do last week, they're suffocating, but they are positive, which I think means this will be a fun game to watch, not a classic defensive slog. Who that benefits, we'll get into, but it's an interesting tactical matchup to consider.
I feel nuts trying to predict this one. I'll be honest, just because, like, when you consider the history of it all, not, yes, there's a lot of ins and outs from a tactical perspective, and yet, like, why is Rhode Island still here? Like, they were not, like, this is all clicking very recently for Rhode Island, it feels like. The flashes were there throughout the season, but they haven't looked as good as they've looked in the playoffs, like, basically all season. And here they are. So it's hard to even count Rhode Island, out in any way, even having to go into Highmark, just because it feels like it's happening again. Like, I don't know what it is about this Rhode Island side once the fall weather kicks in, but fall in New England is, I don't know, there's something in the air.
I mean, this is a Rhode Island team making their second consecutive appearance in the Eastern Conference final. And, like, they would be the first team since Tampa Bay did it back-to-back 20 and 21 to win the East 2 years in a row.
Well, you kind of mentioned, Phil, that this is a Rhode Island team who hadn't quite figured it out. I think I personally disagree, because I feel like their defense has been rock solid all year long. They've just been incredibly negative going forward. Meanwhile, versus Charleston especially, I saw someone like a Bacharach get more involved in the attack, kind of filling out the top of the box, making dangerous chances. Did it result in goals? No. But it was more positive. We've seen defensive solidity all year long from Rhode Island, and they were able to get draws, maybe lose a match 1-0 here and there, but they never really had the big blow-up game, but they never really got the goals. But that kind of play is what can make a playoff run. I mean, heck, a few years ago when we talked about Pittsburgh versus Detroit, we all said Detroit has a chance to upset this Pittsburgh team because they are built defensively and they have just enough flash in the pan going forward to be dangerous. Well, those Detroit teams did not have J.J. Williams up top. They did not have a Noah Busan, and now a Quizera who's going to be back from red card suspension. They didn't have those kind of players that can go forward and be that dangerous. Oh yeah, Albert Deke was on the bench. This is an extremely dangerous team on paper, and defensively they are going to be rock solid, as they have been all year long.
Yeah, and you're right to mention Hugo Bacharach specifically, and the way that Rhode Island has set up this midfield, because they weren't far off from being that complete team in the regular season. The defense was always dominant. They always had the field tilt. In terms of territory, they were what you wanted to see if you're Connor Smith. And then it was just a little bit of connectivity through the midfield, not enough running up top. The way that they've rebalanced for this playoff run, using Holstad as this kind of right winger, kind of number 8, Shapiro Thompson drifting up at wingback, but he's not like a true wingback. You've got Bacharach doing his thing in the midfield. It's a little bit wonky on paper, but the way it comes together just supports how everyone wants to move. The connections have been strong. Again, only been 2 goals in the 2 games, but it feels like this team makes more sense when you watch them play. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, kind of a similar story, right? Augie Williams up top isn't giving them what they need, but everything behind him is looking so slick these days. Griffin, Mertz, Etu up that left side is so hard to stop. It, again, to echo Phil, like the similarity between these 2 teams and trying to parse how this is going to play out, really difficult.
I mean, you talk about Augie Williams. He is one needless shove away from sending Pittsburgh through in regular time. I mean, It was just a pointless foul before scoring that he did not have to do. It's not like the shove gave him position. He was already there. It feels like someone like Augie Williams, who is known for being one of the best strikers that this league has ever seen, is really pressing. He is really trying really hard. and at times has been detrimental, where he tries so hard that it literally cost him a goal. So I'm going to be really interested to see what he does in this match, especially if they were to come up into the 80th minute. It's 0-0. Is Augie going to try to do something special? Meanwhile, someone that we've been raving about since before the trip up to Portland, but then we took a long time during the Portland match to circle him. Look at Charles All. There was moments. There was the dispossession at the beginning of the second half. Ball falls to him. He hits it off the bounce, and Bout curls one in. He is dangerous, and he has audacity to try things as someone who, what is he? Is he 20 years old, younger? You would not think that he would be doing that. Just became a professional really this year, and yet he's doing it. He's a great complement to a Mertz on that left side that you talked about already. You're seeing two players in Mertz and All and Junior A2 who can support Augie Williams, that if he just decides to kind of drop deep, become that central presence, play the ball off to them, he doesn't need to be the one to score because he can still contribute in the goals if he needs to. But this Pittsburgh team has just not shown that they can score in regular time.
Yeah, and I think this goes back. I should have clarified my criticism of Rhode Island to be clicking offensively, because, I mean, 28 goals conceded all season. Incredible. 28 goals scored all season. Woof. And the only two teams that scored less than Rhode Island this season, Monterey Bay and Vegas. So, like, that's it. End of list. So, but only like 3 spots up the goal scoring charts is Pittsburgh. So, like, will either of these teams get it done? I don't know. 14 clean sheets apiece, level with Louisville for most in the league for both of these teams. This has 0-0 written all over it for me. I don't know.
Before we get to predictions, can I ask you guys my clickbaity, super unfair question?
Please.
Of course.
This is Pittsburgh's first ever appearance in the conference final, and it comes with Vincent at charge. That legitimately, does this damage Bob Lilly's legacy?
To say it damages the legacy would not be correct, because what Bob Lilly has done up to this point between Rochester and Pittsburgh is unassailable. Does it reflect poorly on the last 3 years of Bob Lilly and not hurt the overarching thing? Probably. Like the fact that Lilly couldn't take that Player Shield team and get them past Detroit, and we saw pretty mediocre returns last year. And now Rob Vincent comes in and makes real changes. I think that's why there is this question being valid, right? The way the midfield sets itself up, the freedom of the center backs to underlap, the patterns in the final third, those all feel like pretty meaningful innovations that Bob Lilly just wasn't taking advantage of. So I'm going to say no, but in terms of like the recent way that we're judging Bob Lilly, maybe.
Yes. No. No. I think John's got the right angle here. That being said,
he might have lost his touch is
Yeah.
the answer, but it doesn't harm the legacy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you can certainly say that Pittsburgh probably, could, and certainly in the Player Shield year should have done quite a bit more in the playoffs. And is there a little bit of the, like, live by the sword, die by the sword of, like, you can play cautious, and when you're, like, far the better team, sometimes you're going to get burned by inferior opposition at your own game. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but yeah, tend to agree that he's just didn't get enough done over the last 3 years. But I mean, he's still Bob Lilly.
Yeah, I mean, that's knockout soccer for you. I mean, we've seen what Louisville's done over the past few years, and we're still at least waiting on them to win another league title since at least over 5 years.
Yeah, and Cruz is washed, obviously.
Cruz out, Lilly in. Duh.
Cruz out, Lilly in, Pierman out. What other clickbait can we?
Frank Yallop in.
Wilmer
in.
Wilmer in.
I mean, this is Liverpool Europa League winning Bob Lilly that we're talking about.
Well, how about we predict this one, John? Who you got?
1-0 Rhode Island.
Alex?
Let's roll with a 0-0 to penalty kicks. Pittsburgh.
Ryan?
It would be like incredibly uncanny for Pittsburgh to have a fourth consecutive 0-0. And I just have to think that we see a goal in this one. Like, we've not seen an Eastern Conference final be 0-0. So Pittsburgh 1-0.
Phil?
I'm going 0-0. And I'll say in the Vegas Dick matchup, that Koke gets the better and Rhode Island advance to a second consecutive final.
Something to be notable here. Pittsburgh is looking to break their attendance record again and is allegedly going to be pushing way past their capacity, which did they run that by the fire marshal? I don't know. I'm not a cop. But it's going to be fascinating what that atmosphere is going to be like. It feels like there might be a moment of Highmark itself basically creating a goal. So I will be interested to see how it's going to go. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in extra time. I don't love it, but I am going to go with Vegas extra time. Highmark essentially gets the goal. So let's go ahead, go out west, where the finals are going to go out west no matter what. If Tulsa wins, One Oak is going to have it. If it is New Mexico that wins, it is going to be at the Lab. And no matter what, we will have a ball field out west past the Mississippi final. And it's going to be a good one. I mean, both atmospheres have been absolutely incredible and absolutely deserve to be shown off, even if it's on a baseball field. So that one's going to be fun to see in of itself. This one's going to be at One Oak Field, where they're going to be pushing an even higher attendance mark than they just did. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tulsa absolutely dominated this one in the regular season. But are we going to be able to see New Mexico, who has a new level of confidence that we haven't seen for a long time with this team? Are we going to be able to see them move forward and ignore the formation that's on the screen? I forgot to edit that for New Mexico. The formation's right, not the numbers. Ignore the numbers.
Yeah, you're right to point out the atmosphere at One OK Field as well. The fact that we've got two conference finals and frankly, a League One championship game where all three teams might set their attendance record, that's awesome. That's exactly what the USL wants in these situations. In this game in particular, you can feel Tulsa feed off that home crowd, use that narrow pitch to their advantage every single time they play. It's going to be very useful for them in this matchup as well. A lot of why New Mexico has improved over the last, let's say 2 months or so, has been the use of the wide areas, that ability to evolve beyond classic short passing up the middle, Dennis Sanchez soccer, and get Dayon Harris and Akale touches in transition. Tulsa is built shape-wise and stadium-wise to not let that happen. Curious to see what it looks like for Tulsa. We had this discussion in the Discord of, is it going to be 5-4-1 like they did against Phoenix? Are they going to go back to a back four? That'll matter a lot. Like, if Dylan Pierre can fill the space between the lines and stop New Mexico from doing what they do best, that'll be gigantic for Tulsa.
Of the matchups, like, obviously there's a lot to love about all of the soccer that's going to be played this weekend. And of the matchups, this is the one that has the vibe of like a genuine sort of like box office heavyweight sort of fight about it. Tulsa has not been, lighting things up. I think it's safe to say, like in the playoffs. Not in the way that they certainly did in the regular season, especially given some of the results on the screen, like, where they beat this New Mexico team 5-2. This is very much not that New Mexico team. So I do think that this is going to be a very, very tough matchup. That being said, like, I think there is a genuine chance that there are fireworks because both of these teams have the ability to really break out. I think there will be some caginess as you'd expect in any conference final, but this is the one that feels like the marquee matchup and just feels like a genuine big fight. And I'm just really excited to see what these teams can do, as much as it pains me that two other Western Conference teams are sort of the marquee matchup. But yeah, this is an exciting one.
I mean, New Mexico is entering this match having scored multiple goals in each of their last 5 games. They've scored a goal in each of their last 9 games, but it was Tulsa who was the last team to shut out New Mexico. If we're looking at Tulsa's side, they haven't allowed a goal in 5 hours and haven't allowed a goal at home in nearly the Hobbit trilogy length and duration. That this is still an incredibly difficult place to go into for a road team to get a result, and especially when you have the backing of the crowd that Tulsa is going to have for this game. And especially knowing that the winner of this match not only will host the Cup final, you're looking at the last 4 league champions have all come from the Western Conference as well.
The one last thing that I will say is that Tulsa, despite the fact that they, win the conference regular season and get the top seed and all that, I think there's probably an argument to be made that New Mexico in third probably got the easiest route to the, like, on form, probably got the easiest route. No offense to OC, offense to San Antonio. Well,
I will say San Antonio is the only team in the entirety of the USL playoffs that didn't want to show up. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. So I do think that there is something to be said for the fact that Tulsa having to go through this this edition of Phoenix was no small feat. And obviously they left it extremely, extremely late. And I did just want to say, I know I put this on Twitter, but I did want to give Alex the credit of, he called the Lukic late winner, like, almost exactly,
literally at the death.
Like, that was
like, they blew the whistle after he won, after he scored that goal.
Yeah. As I was watching, like, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I was like, wait, I had like a moment of, like, wait a minute, we talked about this. So credit to Alex. He's the Nostradamus.
I gotta pick my former League One players, and it was a safe bet too. He did it the week before, this is not and he's done it. I think 6 times this season. He's scored the winning goal.
Yeah,
off the
6
bench.
Substitute goals for him. Yeah.
Insane.
He is a super sub.
So I'm assuming you've got a Kale stock this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this New Mexico team, and I'm looking at Maples, Keller, Ryden, and Gloucester. And I'm just excited to see how they play. Honestly, that back 4 is probably the thing I'm most excited about watching any of the playoffs this weekend. Just what Maples has been. If I remember correctly, he was in my top 3 for Defender of the Year. I've been just super impressed with what he has done. Ryden and Keller have been rock solid. Center back Gloucester, no slouch himself. But then you look at Shakes, who's in the back line, whom I'm a little concerned about. He's a super progressive goalkeeper. He's really good with the ball at his feet. So whenever there is a pass to be made, if you can chip somebody, if you can get that line splitting pass, Shake's great. But having steady hands has not been his thing. Lots of punches, lots of parries, a couple of them leading to some dangerous opportunities last week and against Orange County. And it left me a little afraid, not quite the same safe hands as a Tambakis. And the last team, the last player I would want to spill a ball in front of would be Kalira. There's not many other players I'd be more afraid of the ball just landing at his feet, or he punches it out far enough and Weber puts in a second cross. This is a team that can absolutely punish not having safe hands in net. Meanwhile, I'm looking at Tulsa as well with Derek, where we haven't really seen him get his chance a whole lot. Peñaranda has been rock solid, but he gets called on, and he looked good. A little out of practice, of course. It took him a second to really look like he was up to match speed, but you can still see what the experience is giving you. If this ends up being the goalkeeping, just kind of goalkeeping matchup with Derek and it's not Peñaranda, I'm still leaning Derek over Shakes, because Shakes is just not giving me much to hold on to without just scaring me a lot.
And the worst case scenario in this game for New Mexico is Taylor Carrera bullies Keller and Ryden at center back, which I think is a real possibility. Then Tulsa spends a lot of time in the final third. They love to hit a ton of crosses. Can Shakes handle that? The jury is out. New Mexico's strength all year has been avoiding those situations, possessing the ball so much that that doesn't really become an issue. If anybody can force it to be an issue, it's FC Tulsa. So I think you're dead on to focus on Shakes as maybe the make or break player for United, frankly.
I am also just going to go ahead and get way in front of this. I am openly rooting for Tulsa so I can drive there and not have to worry about flights. So just throwing that out there. It's not going to change my prediction.
I'll counter that and say, if it's in Albuquerque, I might just like go home to Phoenix more easily from there and make it an extended kind of Thanksgiving off week for myself. So in terms of dumb bias, we're even.
Any thoughts on this matchup before we get into those predictions?
Happy for Gideon Zalelum, who wonder kid once upon a time. I think this is the season where he's played the most games. Like, he's stayed fit for once in his career. I thought that Dennis Sanchez was going to bench him for the playoffs, thinking that they would need someone more defensively solid. Instead, he's leaned into what Zalelum provides. He has really driven everything that's made them tick in these past two games. And good to see a player get that opportunity and really shine on this stage.
Speaking of that central midfield pairing, y'all remember when Zico Bailey was a wingback? And then they just said, what if we just tried him out in central midfield and completely revitalize his career? I feel like we don't really talk about enough that transition he made of, maybe that was an insane idea, because that was really ballsy of a plan to just try him in the midfield. And boy, has it worked out for Zico Bailey. Now you talk about Zalelum and Bailey. Those are two of the better center midfield pairings that you're going to find in the league right now.
And in that last game that these teams played, it was kind of a short rest deal, some injuries. Dennis Sanchez put Zico Bailey at striker just to see what gives, and he was totally fine. Like, the level of trust that New Mexico has in Bailey to run the show, no matter where he is, I think speaks volumes to the player he's become.
You mentioned him at the top of this, John, when we were talking about is this going to be a 5-man back line? Is it going to be a 4-man back line? Pierre's going to be really interesting. Is he going to be a lockdown number 6 in this match and act like a third center back when they're in possession, and then drop back, or go forward when they're in possession, making a 4-man, and then drop back as a third center back when they're out of possession? That's going to be really interesting. How is that going to work out? I think that's another player you're going to see how he's going to float forward, because if Batista and Ian think that Pierre's going to drop in deep and he doesn't, he goes and challenges the ball in front, there might be a space in the middle. And Greg Hurst has been looking good as well. And Akale is always dangerous cutting inside. That if those three players of Batista, Pierre, and Ian are not completely in lockstep, especially with Pierre possibly going up and down, box to box, inside the box, that could spell trouble for Tulsa as well. So any other thoughts before we get into predictions? All right, John.
I'm struggling with this one. 2-1 New Mexico after extra time.
Alex, since you already had the script, go ahead, let us know.
Well, I'm not traveling to this one, so I am a true neutral. And I'm not gonna say Stefan Luka again, but I'm not gonna say it won't be. But I'm gonna go 1-0 Tulsa.
Ryan?
2-1 Tulsa.
Phil?
Yeah, God. Oh man. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm going chaos. I'm going 3-2 Tulsa after extra time. And yeah, for whatever reason, there's something captivating about the idea of some of these players from Tulsa being in a championship final. Like, of the dams that joined the Western Conference recently, would you have predicted Owen to be the one? And then his, nearby neighbor, a fellow Kentuckian out there on the right flank for Tulsa, Lucas Stauffer, who's acquitted himself very well. So anyways, I am also obviously rooting against New Mexico for rivalry purposes. I think I'm quite transparent about that. And it's like a 3-hour difference in travel time for like flight to Albuquerque versus flight to Tulsa. So from sheer just like fatigue purposes, I am rooting for Tulsa in that way as well.
Phil, you took my prediction. I am also going Tulsa 3-2 after extra time. This one feels like box office. It's going to be a fun match attacking. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 1-1 going into extra time. It just feels like one of those type of matches. Also, would not be surprised if New Mexico pulls this one out, but kind of what John mentioned of the pitch being so narrow that I feel like someone like an Akale, like a Harris, maybe can't get the space that they were used to out at the lab. And maybe that causes a little bit of trouble, but not too much. I'm also going to go 3-2 Tulsa. All right. With all that, what about some final thoughts or final USL thoughts? Do we have any?
Sign the CBA.
Yes. On the players' terms, not just whatever the owners are throwing out at them.
Shout out to the number of past the 120th minute goals we've had in the playoffs. It's making everything insane, and I kind of love it.
RIP North Carolina FC.
Yeah.
That happened kind of unceremoniously in the end. There was something weird about the manner of Dikwa's second goal that made it all feel a little bit like I don't know, like dark comedy. Where it was like almost too weird for how it all ended, and like some of the stories that have come out about maybe some conduct from the owner like at the game and stuff like that has just been very strange to see as well. So yeah, just feel for the fans out in Cary, and hope they'll just latch onto the courage even more, just double down, but it's not ideal.
There was something absolutely insane watching a club die while another man is recreating the Great Cornholio. There was something really bizarre about it.
That's what was so like. Yeah, I genuinely felt like I was having like a fever dream, because like the whole Rhode Island team started putting their shirts up. Like that was crazy. Obviously, huge goal, and it was a big win for Rhode Island. But yeah, weird to see a club cease to exist in that moment.
Any other USL thoughts?
Yeah, you mentioned the late goals last week. The league said that those were the 2 latest goals in league history.
Wow.
At Daniels at 128.48 and Lukic at 121.09.
And New Mexico's was not much sooner.
Yeah, in
there's
regulation, but
90.
still,
Yeah.
It was in
Still.
stoppage, but not extra.
Not true. All right. How about some final thoughts for the week? Ryan, let's start with you.
Yeah, I guess for things I've been watching lately, have you ever like had that film where it's like the world building and like all the setting of it's really cool, but the story is just like really average and really just kind of by the numbers? That was me watching The Creator earlier this week. It was that other film that came out from the Rogue One director, where I was just like the newsreel that they had at the start of the film and that took like 3 minutes. That was cool. That was like something I wanted to see more of that story. Then it continued on for 2 more hours, and I was just like, oh, this is not what was promised at the start. So, yeah, kind of just an average film, I guess.
It's crazy to me that John David Washington is like Denzel Washington's kid, but has the pizzazz of like a sack of potatoes. Like the guy just does not have it a lot of the time.
Alex?
Started watching Death by Lightning on
Let's
Netflix,
go.
aka Men with a Lot of Beards. It's actually pretty entertaining. I had no idea that Chester Arthur was such an asshole and a drunk. I've been trying to like find that information on that, but maybe it's all for
shout out to the
dramatic
book that it's
purposes,
based
but-
off of, which
Is it okay?
very
So
good
this is
book. Yeah,
that's okay. So that is based on fact. Okay. And Nick Offerman playing him is just outstanding. And see you all in Knoxville.
Have a great time. Hope you have a blast. John?
yeah. Nothing standing out that I've watched lately, but today they announced that they are making a Alice in Wonderland musical with Sabrina Carpenter as Alice in Wonderland. And that is the exact brand of dumb shit that I am into.
Bill?
Yeah, at the risk of bringing the mood down, hopefully not too much. I would say, today is a day where a lot of veterans probably have like pretty weird vibes, where it's like you often get thanked, and there are people who feel conflicted about like their own service, and there are people who like struggle with mental health concerns and things like that. So I would just say, like, if you do know someone or have family members or whatever, I would say, reaching out and just like touching base because veterans, for all of the other things, like the statistics are there, like they commit suicide at a much higher rate than other people because a lot of them struggle with PTSD and all of these things. So like, be kind, I guess, and listen, if you have someone who is a veteran in your life, like just listen if they need anything. And on a much more positive note, this past weekend, due to the like long weekend for the military, I got to see a friend of mine who he is a foreign area officer, which is like the people in the Army who work with the State Department a lot. And he has been working at the U.S. Embassy in Vilnius, Lithuania for the last 3 years.
Wow.
And so they are now back in the States. He's at Fort Knox working for Human Resources Command, which is a real thing that exists in the Army. They have HR as well. And so he's working there. And so they drove up, like him and his wife and the kids, who are like their like oldest friends from college, and their kids who are like big now. And so like they got to play with my daughter and everything. And it was just a blast. And yeah, it's just awesome to reconnect with folks and have that ability to do so. So that was this past weekend, but yeah, it's nice having friends around. And yeah, other than that, I am very much looking forward to this weekend of USL action. So that is what I will be watching.
Let's see. I went out to a friend's wedding that we had not seen in a while. That was a ton of fun to see a bunch of people. Really, it was an outdoor wedding, like super pretty. All the leaves were great. While we were out there, we could hear the thunder happening, and it was getting closer and closer and closer. And like it was a beautiful thing. The groom was getting choked up, crying, and it's like, okay, this is really cute. This is wonderful, but that thunder is getting closer, and I need you to hurry up.
There are practical realities to this situation that I need you to acknowledge immediately.
But we made it inside, I think, 5 minutes before the downpour came. So like he pulled it together, absolutely got it there. So shout out to him, shout out to the bride. And then today I went to, so I teach in the same band room as our orchestra director, and he put on a tennis clinic as a fundraiser. So I went, supported, where I am quickly learning that tennis just may be the hardest sport of all time. What do you mean you have to serve it in that little box? That doesn't seem fair.
If you had to put it in the box, why did you fence off such a much larger area?
I mean,
like,
many people are saying it.
Many people are questioning.
So that was my experience today with tennis. It was something else. So, yeah, well, I think that's about it. Next time we will see you guys, there will be a new champion, and we will be heading out to a final. So that's going to be a ton of fun. Alex, enjoy Knoxville. Have an absolute blast. And everybody who's watching, watch Golazo Network, watch League One Final. Enjoy yourself with the championship finals, and we will see you next week. And for the first and final time of night, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.